to zoom now. Okay, so we're starting 5.6. If you don't have these equations, write them down or pause. Make sure that you have those down somewhere on your identity sheet. That's as good as it's gonna get. Okay. All right, so while if you need to write those down, please do that. I'm gonna talk through what we did the other day. So we started 5.6a, and we found letter C because we were given, I'll kind of erase these. Oh, sorry. I said, write these down and then I went away from it. Okay. What was given to us was big C, little b, and little a. And so using law of cosines, we're essentially doing an SAS type of problem. I gave you a side, and then the angle in between those two. And then we were able to find little c. We said little c is equal to 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 10 times 12 times cosine of 58. What I think I at least tried to explain to you guys last time is that the A, B's, and C's don't really matter. All that matters is that whatever you're doing on the left-hand side should be the same as the angle on the farthest most right side. So those should be across from each other. So in this case, 58 and C go together. So I start with C squared on one side, I end with 58 on the other side. The other two numbers, it doesn't matter what order you put them in because you're just squaring and adding and multiplying, and that can be done in any of those orders. This one is actually a pretty easy one to solve. So I believe we just kind of plugged all of that into our calculator, and then we square rooted both sides, and we got C equals 10.8. Now, what we also need to do before we move on is it says solve the triangle. So the only thing that I'm missing is angle, I'm missing angle S and angle H. So we need to find those. I don't care which one you find, but we need to find one of them first. And then we can just take the two angles that we have minus from 180. I also would encourage you to use not law of cosines again. I would use law of sines. So since I have one triangle here, I am going to use my law of sines. I'm going to use the C that was given to me. So I'm going to use 58 and then 10.8 and then S and then 12. So I'm going to do a law of sines that way. So sine of 58 over 10.8 equals sine of S over 12. Now, when we did problems like that in the past, this is when I told you like we had to stop and we had to check because it was an ambiguous case. We don't have to do that now because I have enough of the triangle. I have all but the two angles, so I know this is just one triangle. I have 4 pieces now since I used my law of cosines. So now I'm just going to solve for a big S and I'm going to see what happens. So we're going to cross multiply first. 10.8 times sine of S equals 12 times sine 58. I'm going to divide by 10.8 on both sides. And then I'm going to do my inverse sine to get rid of my sine on the left-hand side. So if I do second sine or sine to the -1 or inverse sine, whatever you say in your head when you see that, I should be good to go. Then I'm going to plug that into my calculator and see what S is going to equal. Does anybody have any questions so far, or are we still hanging on? Okay. So second sine 12 sine 58 divided by 10.8. And I get 70.4. Okay. So I'm gonna go put 70.4 in for S. And then I can find angle H by doing 58 plus 70.4 and then minusing that from 180. And so angle H is just going to be 51.6. If you like the kind of work, you can think about 58 plus 70.4 plus X equals 180. And that's how we found angle H. All right, we ready for the next one? Let's do some more law of cosine problems, okay? So this problem gives us all three sides. So let's go draw a little triangle and we're going to label all three sides C, H, and S. Little c is going to be 3.2, little h is going to be 7.6, and little s is 6.4. Now the difference here is this is still going to be law of cosine, but now it's a side, side, side. That means that technically I can pick any angle to find. I can find any angle that I want because I have all the sides. I usually like to do the biggest or the smallest one just so I kind of can keep everything straight. I'm probably going to do the smallest one. So I'm going to do C by itself. Okay. So I'm going to do 3.2 squared equals, and then we just plug into the formula, 6.4 squared plus 7.6 squared minus 2 times 6.4 times 7.6 times cosine of C. All right, now let's start simplifying. I'm going to do all my squares. And then I'm also going to do this -2 times 6.4 times 7.6. Okay, I'm going to have all of those separate. So 3.2 squared is 10.24. 6.4 squared is going to be 40.96. And 7.6 squared is going to be 57.76. And 2 times 6.4 times 7.6. Now, a really, really common mistake that a lot of us are about to make is that you're going to combine this and this together to one term. Why is that a mistake? Why can you not do that?
You can't do it because it has the cosine C in there.
Good. The cosine C is attached to the end of this one. So this term you can't combine with anything. Okay. I'm going to add these two together and then move them to the other side. And then I can divide by that 97.28. But I can't do anything with it now. So let's do 40.96 plus 57.76. Okay. So now I've got 10.24 equals 98.72 minus 97.28 cosine C. You still cannot combine those two terms. Sometimes we get to this step and then you're like, oh, look, I can combine it. No. So I'm going to minus that 98.72 from both sides. And I'm going to get negative 88.48 equals negative 97.28 cosine C. And I'm going to divide by that 97.
Pardon this interruption. At this time, could the liturgy committee please head down to the Welch Activity Center, please? The liturgy committee head down to the Welch Activity Center.
So I'm going to do negative 88.48 divided by negative 97.28. And that gives me 0.9095. And that's not my answer because that's what cosine of C equals. So now we need to do inverse cosine on both sides. So C equals second cosine of 0.9095, and that is 24.6. Make sure that you can get that same answer as I do. Okay. Now, you're more than welcome to do another law of cosine. I just find that I mess up a lot with law of cosine, and this feels like a lot more work than law of sine. So in order to find one of the other angles, I'm going to go do a law of sine just like I did before. And then when I find that angle, I'll minus from 180. So I don't care which angle you find next. I'll probably do H. Ooh, that's not what I want. I'll probably do H. So I'm going to do a law of sine Sine of 24.6 over 3.2 equals sine of h over 7.6. I'm gonna solve that, but I'm gonna be quiet so you can solve that too. And then I'll have my answer on the board so you can see that. And calculator. Got my work for my angle H on the board. Also got my work for angle S on the board too. Wait, with my picture. Anybody have any questions on what you see so far? I'm gonna label my picture, 74. And 81.4. We're gonna do one more, and I actually, I think this is easier to do as a law of sines than it is a law of cosines, but let me just set it up and we'll kind of make sure that's what I really want to do here. C. Call this A, and then we'll call this one B. So you could do a law of cosines here, but that feels really messy for kind of no reason. The variable would be like one of the ones in between. It would be like if the 6.4 was the variable, and that's like a lot of work for kind of no reason. So instead, I look at this and I know it's going to be an angle side side, which I know is a problem. I know that's going to be an ambiguous case, but I'm still going to do law of sines because I'd rather do this than do the messy law of cosines. The only thing is, since we are doing law of sines, we are going to need to check in a second. So why don't you go ahead? We're going to set up our law of cosines. I'm going to do sine of 57 over 11 equals sine of b over 10. And then once I get an answer, I'm going to have to stop and check. Oh, wait, what? 49 points. Alright, so I did my law of sines, and then whenever you do law of sines to find an angle and we haven't found anything else, we do need to stop and we need to check. So remember, we need to see if the supplement of this would count as an angle. So I'm gonna do 180 minus 49.7. And that's 130.3. So then my question is, if this angle B was 130.3, would I have a triangle? So I'm asking, does 57 plus 130.3 plus something else equal 180? And so I start thinking, I go, okay, 130.3 plus 57. Oof, that's already 187.3. Could we have a triangle if that angle was 130.3? No. And so I checked, but it doesn't work, so I only have one triangle. Which is good, because now I'm just gonna figure out what angle A is, and then I'm gonna do my law of sines again to find out what little a is. So to find out what big A is, I'm gonna do 57 plus 49.7 plus big A equals 180. It's 106.7, and then 180 minus 106.7 is 73.3. And then I bet you could take a second and do your law of sines. I am gonna use 57 and 11 because those were both given to me. So whenever doing a law of sines, I wanna try and use as much that was already given to me as possible. Sine of 57 over 11 equals sine of 73.4. And I get 12.6. You guys doing okay with that? All right, let's keep moving then. I want to get into as much of the area problems as possible. It's looking like these word problems might come the next day, but that's okay. Reminder above, I told you area of a triangle is going to be 1/2 AB sine C. So as long as you have, and I'll draw like kind of a little picture to help us remember that. This is A, B, and C. We have an angle, and then we have the two opposite sides. So you essentially have a side angle side situation here in order to do an area of a triangle. If you do not have side angle side, then you may need to do law of cosines or law of sines in order to get side angle side. Does that make sense? So let's draw the first one and see what's going on. I've got angle A is 47. I've got little b is 32, and then little c is 19. Do I have an angle and then the two sides around it? Yeah, amazing. I know that the equation uses A, B, and C in that order, and my A, B's, and C's are a little bit different. It truly doesn't matter, as long as you have the angle and then the two sides around it. That's all that I care about, and that's what I have here. So I'm gonna plug and chug. I'm gonna say area equals 1/2 19 times 32 times sine of 47. Now, you're welcome to just plug that right into your calculator and go. I like to do a little simplifying, and if you do simplify, I like to kind of bring up this point. Remember, if you simplify, I know that 32 is divisible by 2, it brings down to 16. You don't distribute the 1/2 to the 19 and to the 32. No, it only goes to one of those things because they're all three multiplied together. So once I do, 1/2 of 32 and I get 16, that 1/2 is done. And now I'm gonna multiply 19 times 16 times sine of 47 in the calculator. And I get 222.3. And that is in feet squared, because feet was the units given to me. All right, we doing okay with that? That's not too hard, is it? No, okay, let's do the next one. Let's draw our picture. A, B, C. I know A is 43. B is 57, and then little b is 12. Now I need an angle and then the two sides around it. I think the best thing to do is to use angle A and then figure out what little c is and use little b. So all I have to do is figure out what little c is. Do we actually know what big C is?
Yeah,
What is it?
it's 80,
Why is it 80?
because 57 and 43 added together is 100, and subtract that from 180, it's 80.
Perfect, good. So that was easy. We found angle C really easily. How do we find little c? Law of sines, very good, Ava. So I'm gonna do law of sines. I'm gonna say sine of 57 over 12 equals sine of 80 over little c. Remember, anytime you have two angles on a side, that's law of sines. Law of cosines is if you have three sides or if you have the two sides and then the angle in between them. Which honestly wouldn't be helpful here, we wouldn't even need to use it. Well, sine 80 divided by sine of 57, and I get 14.1. That's awesome, because that comes over here, 14.1. And now I have my angle on the two sides around it. I've got to do my area. We're gonna do 1/2 times 14.1 times 12 times sine of 43. Again, that 1/2 only goes to one of those numbers, so I'm gonna do 1/2 of 12 because I know what that is off the top of my head. That becomes 6. And then I'm gonna literally just put my calculator 14.1 times 6 times sine of 43. And I get 57.7. Now the difference is my unit is now in centimeters, so I'm gonna say that's centimeters squared. We doing okay? All right, I really gotta fight for at least one more of these, okay? Last one, let's set this one up. So little a is 16. Little b is 12, and then little c is 10. Do I have two sides and it's included angle? No. Can I find an included angle? Yeah, using what? Law of cosines. Does it matter which angle I find? No, whatever one you want, just be consistent. I'm probably gonna find angle A. Just because we keep doing angle A. Could you find B and C, B or C and get the same answer as me? Absolutely. But if I do angle A, then that means 16 is gonna be by itself on the left-hand side. So I'm gonna do 16 squared equals 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 10 times 12 times cosine of big A. But I'm glad we get to practice this one again because I think this is the harder one of the law of cosines, okay? So again, I'm gonna do all my squares, so that's 256 equals 100 plus 144 minus 240 cosine A. Can I do 100 plus 144 minus 240? Nope. Can't minus that 240, just add these two together and then minus from the other side. So 256 equals 244 minus 240 cosine A. You still cannot do anything with that negative 240. Minus 244 from both sides. And we get 256 minus 244. And I get 12 equals negative 240 cosine A. Divide by negative 240. And I get negative 0.05 equals cosine A. And then now is where I do my second cosine on both sides. Second cos negative 0.05, and I get angle A is 92.9 degrees. Now, I'm not done yet, right? What do I have to do? We're gonna do our area, right? That's the whole point of this problem. So let's do our area. We're gonna do area equals 1/2 of 10 times 12 times sine of 92.9. Sorry, I'll finish this and then we'll go to math. I will do my quick little simplify. You only get to do 1/2 of one of the numbers. So I'm gonna do 1/2 of 10, not 1/2 of 10 and 12, only of one of them. So 5 times 12 times or sine of 92.9, and I get my area is 59.9, and it's still in centimeters. Okay. Any question? You guys know what we're saying for math? All right, we do have 2 word problems that we have to do next class, okay?